Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The Talking Points memo will be in our second segment this evening, and it will deal with dishonesty and stupidity in the wake of the Baltimore riots. But first, our lead story tonight, trying to get answers from the mayor of Baltimore and her entourage. As you may know, there are credible reports that the mayor ordered the police not to protect people and property when the riots broke out on Monday. Since that time, the press has been stonewalled. Fox News correspondent Leland Vittert caught up with the mayor and her new bodyguard, Sharpton.
Madam Mayor, Leland Vittert with Fox News Channel. Hi, what do you have to say to the businesses who were looted because of your order to stand down?
Can you excuse me 1 minute?
You don't have anything to say? Nothing to say to the
you
business owners.
excuse
What
us
about to the
1
police who are injured?
Excuse us, sir.
I'm sorry. Hey, excuse me. Hey! Why can't we ask questions? Why can't we ask questions, man?
What they said.
We can't ask questions?
You can't.
A public official? We can't ask.
Yes, you will have an opportunity.
I can ask questions? And will you answer them? You'll answer our questions then now. Then you'll answer our questions?
At the press conference.
Excuse us.
Whoa! Whoa!
Joining us now from Baltimore is Leland Vittert. So, first of all, what's Sharpton doing there?
Your guess is as good as mine, Bill. Obviously, he came. It was a church that we caught up with him at. He was organizing and rallying, saying that he was trying to bring the community together at this time, or maybe he just is acting as the mayor's bodyguard and trying to help make sure she doesn't have to answer any questions or tough questions, as it were, about the decision-making process leading up to this and why she gave this stand-down order to the police and how this has all happened here in this city that for a while was a lawless city.
Did you ever get an answer from the mayor? I mean, we have police sources that say she directly told her police department and others who were helping not to go in and stop the rioting and the looting and the burning. Has she answered the question whether she gave that order or not?
Not to us, she is not, and we broke that story over the past couple of days. Multiple police sources saying not only was there a stand-down order, but also an order not to wear certain riot protection gear. And my sources tell me that some of their friends on the police riot line were injured because of those orders by the mayor. And you heard us ask those two questions to the mayor, didn't get answers there. And you also, as you saw in there, there was that promise of a press conference that was going to be coming. The Reverend saying, oh, we'll answer all of this at the press conference. Well, during that community event, we waited through the whole thing. We listened to the Reverend and the mayor and the ex-mayor and everybody else talk in order to get to this promised press conference. Well, the mayor, during the whole thing, slipped out the back door with her security detail and was gone. Never answered that question.
All right. So I think that's a pretty good demonstration of what's going on there. Now, here's how Sharpton described what you just saw with Leland. Roll the tape.
We were just walking in here now, in a church. One reporter stick his mic in her face, I'm for Fox News, you gonna answer no, and start falling back like somebody pushed him. He'll be on tonight like we hit him or something. I tell you right now, just watch the circus tonight, like somebody hit him. He start falling back and boom, boom. Play acting. Times are too serious to play them games. Because you try and incite a reaction and cover the reaction, the media needs to be responsible. Quit playing with matches in Baltimore.
That sounds like a threat to me, but I'll let that go. Number one, I'll let the audience decide whether you fell back in some kind of phony posture. I did not see it, and none of my staff saw it, but, you know, the folks saw the tape at the top, so they'll decide. Do you have any reaction to Sharpton's reaction?
That's a little rich for the Reverend to be talking about playing with matches. He is right about one thing, Bill. You know he says a lot of things. Anyone knows that. But he is right that these are very serious times, and these are serious times that require serious people and serious questions. And that's what we were trying to do, is get to the mayor and talk to her about these questions. She may not have had a good answer. She may not like the answer she has to give to why did she order the police to stand down? Why did she say, as my sources have told me, let them loot, it's only property? She may not like to answer those questions, but those are serious questions. And for this community to heal and to move on, and frankly, for the police officers to have their dignity and morale back, they deserve answers from their mayor?
Well, I'll give you some answers now because we found out, and we believe this is correct. I haven't nailed it down 100%, that the mayor was on the Ferguson Advisory Committee or some kind of committee that looked into what happened in Ferguson, and part of that was that the police militarized presence there exacerbated the rioting. And so it makes sense that she would tell her police force, don't do that. Number two, that, you know, there is a strain of public officials that say, hey, it's only property. And I think that's what she's quoted as saying, is it not, the mayor to the police department, hey, it's only property, don't make it worse. Did you hear anything like that?
That's actually the exact quote that I got from one of my sources who has direct knowledge of what was said inside these meetings. The quote we got was from the mayor, let them loot, it's only property.
Right.
But every police officer that you ever talk to, and certainly people who are experts in these tactics, say that is absolutely the wrong way to deal with these situations. And we saw that on Monday as the looting expanded. People saw the initial police response of restraint and holding back, and as one officer put it to me, just taking an absolute pounding with all of those bricks and liquor bottles and everything else. And they said, oh, well, the police aren't going to do anything. Well, all right, now it's time to go get the 5-finger discount on everything.
Sure.
From
I mean,
liquor
if there's
to tennis shoes,
and the same thing
else,
happened in
and now we have the
Ferguson.
National Guard.
Right, same thing happened in Ferguson. If there's nobody standing between the mob and the store is going to be looted. Leland, great job, and also our photographers out there, been in harm's way for 4 days now. Excellent job. We appreciate it. Directly ahead, the Talking Points memo. There are reports about how. In the Impact segment tonight, the Talking Points memo, the Baltimore rioting now leading to madness. As we've been telling you, every excuse in the book is being used by some Americans to justify the violence in Baltimore. Let's start with what ignited the rioting. 25-year-old Freddie Gray died in police custody of severe spinal injuries. On Monday, Mr. Gray was buried. Shortly after that, the rioting began. Today, there's a report in the Washington Post that says Mr. Gray may have inflicted some of his own injuries on himself. That a police document says after he was taken into custody and put in the back of a van, he was banging his body into the framework. Again, the Washington Post reported that. But Fox News medical analyst Dr. Mark Siegel says this.
You could sustain a brain injury and you could get a head injury that way. You could even get a neck injury, but let me be clear. There's no way that you could sever your spine by bashing your head against a wall or the side of a car or anything like that. That is not going to end up being the cause of a severed spine in this case.
The truth is, we don't know what happened to Mr. Gray, the same way we did not initially know what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. It's fine to report about possible evidence. If you see a piece of paper and that's on it, you got to report it. But it is irresponsible to speculate about it. It's also irresponsible to make insane statements trying to justify vigilante violence. And that's what we've been hearing all week. The litany of excuse-making is excruciating. The rioters are angry because America is a country of mass incarceration. People who burn down buildings and loot are just misdirected folks who feel hopeless. And if you feel hopeless, it's okay to riot. You see, it's really not the fault of those who commit crimes. It's the fault of America because we don't provide jobs for everyone. Instead of pinpointing the real problem and then trying to solve it, you get crazy theories that attempt to provide justification for Americans hurting other Americans. If you can't make big money, go ahead and sell heroin. No problem. Here's the truth. How can anyone provide a job that pays a decent salary to somebody who can barely read or write? To somebody who can't speak English? To somebody who has tattoos all over their body, who's defiant, disrespectful, and who doesn't even want to work because they have a sense of entitlement that says they're victims and you owe me? Does that sound like a good job-seeking resume to you? And don't tell me those folks don't exist. They're legion. So these politicians out on the street trying to justify rioting by saying we don't provide jobs are dishonest in the extreme. If you get educated and are willing to work hard, you can get a job. May not be the best paying job at first, but you work your way up. Okay, now let's take a look at foolish things that have been said this week. Listen to this MSNBC host.
Stephanie Rawlings Blake is a black woman. Barack Obama is half black, half white, but is identified as a black president. And they're using the word thug. Now, Stephanie Rawlings Blake has since said, has apologized. The president seems, if we're to believe the White House press secretary, defiantly sort of doubling down on this is how I describe looters and people who perpetrate violence.
So that woman is hammering President Obama for describing people who loot and burn down buildings as thugs. She objects to that. So she mentions the president's race. Dismal. Here's another one.
No one is calling the police who put this kid in a van and snapped his spine and crushed his voice box thugs, right? They're only applying it to acts of violence against property, right? Acts of harassment, sure, acts of anger. But when are we going to have a language to talk about the systemic violence that white folks do in the name of anti-blackness and white supremacy in this country? We don't have a language for that.
Wrong. We do at least have a word for that kind of analysis. Stupid. According to reporting by the New York Times, here in New York City, 91 people were shot dead by police in 1971. In 2013, last stats available, the number was 8, a record low. Los Angeles, second largest city. Force by police making arrests down 17%. Just 84 suspects were apprehended by force out of 149,000 arrests. I think that was in 2014. So this brutal cop's accusation is a provable lie. Want more truth? This is not a country that promotes white supremacy. Bigoted people are everywhere, and they come in all colors. But there's no systemic effort to keep black people down in America. To perpetuate this kind of vicious propaganda is atrocious. Finally, you want a little justification for crime? Listen to this.
A good example was that check cashing place that was looted. That is a store that actually preyed on this community, charging high rates in order to cash checks and so forth. Because traditionally, a lot of these residents aren't able to obtain accounts at a traditional bank. So it's a lot more deeper.
So because the check cashing place makes money off poor folks, it deserves to be burnt down. So now the neighborhood doesn't have a check cashing place. Summing up. This has been a bad week in America, made worse by dishonest politicians, foolish pundits, and hateful morons. And that's the memo. Next on the Rundown, we'll talk with the sheriff who has a strong point of view on the racial unrest in Baltimore and in America. Right back.